I'm 75 years old, and I always believed I had time. Time to fix things, time to call back, time to say what I meant. I don't believe that anymore. When you get to my age, you stop arguing with the clock. You listen to it instead. It's louder than it used to be. Every morning feels like a subtraction. I'm not telling you this because I want sympathy. I've had a full life. A good job. A house that stayed standing. A wife who stayed longer than I deserved. Children who grew up and made something of themselves. From the outside, it all looks fine. But time doesn't care about appearances. It keeps moving whether you're paying attention or not. And I wasn't. When I was young, I thought life was something you built first and felt later. I thought presents could wait. I thought love understood postponement. I was wrong. In my 20s, I was busy becoming someone. That's what we called it. Becoming. I worked long hours. Said yes to everything. Promotions, extra shifts, business trips. I told myself I was building security. My wife, Mary, used to wait up for me in those early years. She'd sit on the couch with the lamp on. Sometimes she'd pretend to be reading when I walked in. "You're late," she'd say softly. "Just for now." I'd answer. It was always just for now. We were young. Rent was high. Babies came fast. I told myself this was temporary. Work hard now, relax later. Later is a dangerous word. In my 30s, I was proud of how tired I was. That sounds foolish now, but it's true. Exhaustion felt like proof I was doing something right. Providing. Sacrificing. I missed dinners. School plays. Saturday mornings at the park. Not because I didn't care. Because I thought there would be another one. There's always another play. Another game. Another birthday. Until there isn't. I remember one afternoon. My son was maybe 8. He had a small part in a school production. 2 lines. He practiced them at the kitchen table for weeks. I promised I'd be there. That day, something came up at work. It wasn't an emergency. It wasn't life or death. Just a meeting that felt important at the time. I told myself he was young. He wouldn't remember. When I got home, the house was quiet. He was already asleep. Mary said he looked for me in the audience. I nodded. Said I'd make the next one. He never mentioned it again. That's the thing about children. They adjust. They learn who you are. They stop expecting. In my 40s, the house got bigger. The car got newer. My title sounded impressive. People shook my hand firmly. At home, conversations got shorter. Mary stopped waiting up. We talked about schedules, groceries, bills, the children's grades. We functioned well. We ran a tight ship. But something softer had started to thin out. I didn't notice it at first. Or maybe I did and didn't want to look at it too closely. There was always tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'd take her out to dinner. Tomorrow, I'd leave work early. Tomorrow, I'd sit and ask her how she really was. Tomorrow came and went so many times it lost meaning. We weren't unhappy. That's what makes this harder to explain. We were fine. Fine can stretch for decades. In my early 50s, the kids moved out. The house got quiet in a different way. You'd think that would have brought us closer. 2 people alone again after all those years. But we didn't quite know how to talk without logistics. One night, she said, "Do you ever feel like we postponed our lives?" I laughed a little. Not cruelly. Just uncomfortably. "What do you mean?" "This is our life." She nodded, but it wasn't agreement. It was resignation. I still thought there was time. Retirement was coming. I'd slow down then. We'd travel. Sit on the porch. Relearn each other. I worked harder than ever in those last few years before retiring. I wanted to leave on a high note. Leave a legacy. Secure everything. I didn't realize I was running towards something that wouldn't wait. Mary got sick the year I retired. It started small. Fatigue. A cough that lingered. We thought it was nothing. There's that word again. Nothing. By the time we understood it wasn't nothing, it was something that had already taken root. Hospitals have a smell you never forget. Clean but heavy. Like endings. I sat beside her bed and finally had nowhere else to be. Isn't that strange? For the first time in decades, my calendar was empty. My phone silent. I held her hand and told her about the trips we would take when she felt better. She smiled the way you do when you don't want to hurt someone with the truth. There wasn't going to be a later. She died on a quiet Tuesday morning. No dramatic last words. Just a slow fading. I was 62. People told me I had many good years ahead. They meant well. But the years ahead were not the ones I had saved for. The house felt enormous after she was gone. I would walk into rooms and forget why I was there. Her slippers stayed by the bed for months. I couldn't move them. I kept thinking about small things. The way she used to reach for my hand in the car. The way she'd look at me when she laughed. Moments I had been physically present for but not fully inside. I had assumed those moments were permanent fixtures. Background music to a busy life. They weren't. My children were kind. They called often. Visited when they could. They have their own lives now. Jobs. Children. Schedules that look a lot like mine used to. I see the pattern repeating. Sometimes I want to warn them. Shake them gently and say, go home early. Sit longer. Turn off the phone. But I know how it sounds when you're young. It sounds like someone who doesn't understand ambition. I understood ambition very well. I just misunderstood time. In my 70s now, mornings are slower. I make coffee and sit by the window. The neighborhood has changed. Faces I don't recognize walk dogs past my house. I am a leftover from another era. That's not self-pity. It's just the truth. Friends have been disappearing one by one. Heart attacks, cancer, quiet strokes in their sleep. At funerals, we speak about achievements, promotions, awards, square footage. We don't speak much about the evenings we missed, the apologies never said, the hugs postponed. I don't regret working. That would be dishonest. Work gave us stability. It paid for braces and college tuition. It kept the lights on. What I regret is believing that provision was the same thing as presence. They are not the same. Presence requires attention. It requires boredom sometimes. It requires sitting in moments that don't produce anything measurable. I measured everything in output. How much did I earn? How many hours did I log? How quickly did I climb? I never measured how often I looked up. There's a memory that visits me often now. Mary standing in the kitchen, sunlight coming through the window. She's telling me about her day. Something small. A neighbor's comment. A recipe she wanted to try. I'm nodding, but my mind is somewhere else. Planning. Calculating. If I could step back into one moment, it would be that one. Not a grand vacation. Not a milestone. Just that kitchen. That light. Her voice. And I would listen. Really listen. You don't know which ordinary day is the last ordinary day. That's the cruel part. If someone had told me at 35 that my time with her was finite in a way I could feel, maybe I would have rearranged things. But youth makes death abstract. It belongs to other people, other families, not yours, until it is. Now I move through days carefully, not because I'm afraid, but because I understand the cost of not paying attention. When my granddaughter visits, I sit on the floor even if my knees protest. I let her explain her drawings in detail. I don't rush her stories. There is nowhere more important to be. Took me 75 years to understand that. I used to think life was about building something that would outlast me. A reputation. A financial cushion. a name spoken with respect. But most of that fades quickly. What remains are impressions. Did you feel available? Did you feel kind? Did you feel there? I can't go back and rebalance the scales. Some weights are fixed forever. There are conversations that will never happen. Questions I'll never ask her. Apologies that have no address to be delivered to. That's the part that stays heavy. People sometimes ask me what I would do differently. I don't give them a dramatic answer. I don't say I'd quit my job and travel the world. I would simply go home earlier. I would sit longer at the table. I would treat interruptions as invitations instead of obstacles. That's it. Nothing heroic. Just present. If you're listening to me and you're still in the middle of your busy years, I'm not here to scold you. I know how loud responsibility can be. I know how urgent everything feels. I felt it too. Just ask yourself, quietly, how many tomorrows you are counting on, and whether they've been promised. They haven't. I learned that too late. I don't cry much anymore. Grief changes shape over time. It becomes less sharp but more constant. Like a low hum in the background. I live with it. I talk to her sometimes in the evenings. Not in a dramatic way. Just small updates. The weather. The children. The garden she used to tend. I don't know if anyone hears me, but I hear myself. And in those quiet conversations, I finally say the things I should have said when she was sitting across from me. Thank you. I'm sorry. I was here, but I wasn't always with you. If this means something to you, hold on to someone a little longer tonight. Not because an old man told you to, but because you understand what it costs to assume you have time. I don't know how many mornings I have left. The doctor gives numbers, but numbers feel less reliable than they used to. What I do know is that time is not a storage unit. You cannot save it for later use. It is spent as it is given. I spent much of mine wisely by the standards of the world, but not always wisely by the standards of the heart. At 75, you start measuring differently. You measure by laughter remembered, by hands held, by conversations finished. I thought I had time. I thought love would wait politely until I was ready to slow down. It didn't. Time was never mine to manage. It was only mine to notice. And I noticed too late. Now I sit by the window most mornings, coffee cooling in my hands, and I watch the light change on the street. It's a small thing, but I am here for it, fully. That is all I can do with the time I have left.